This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my video talking about where to go in and out of the Revenge of the Sith Ultimate Cut, as I'm calling it. And this is basically the cut I have of the movie where you would cut between everything that is currently out that has Revenge of the Sith content in it, with that mainly Order 66 scenes that tie in. And it's mainly a combination of Revenge of the Sith and the Siege of Mandalore arc. And with it, I'm going to go over it in 3 sections, which I'm going to be basing the final 3 videos of the Clone Wars recap and review on. So I just wanted to bring that out. And also I want to know what you think of the thumbnail design, which is also on screen right now, because I spent a few hours putting this together and had a lot of fun doing it while I was watching this cut of the movie last night from the day I'm recording it, because I'm gonna release this on Thursday. So I watched it last night as in Tuesday to you. Well, so that's not really important anymore. I'm gonna go and start looking at this, and with it I will look at the list and I will explain why I made the cuts at certain places after I go through it. And I'm not sure if I will, but I may put the document in the description and in a comment, so you could go and check it out, but I will only have you the ability to make comments on it and not edit it. And if you do, I may add those edits in, and I may update it when we get more scenes from Revenge of the Sith, but I'm not sure. And looking at the first part, which I titled The End of the Clone Wars, there is Chapter 1.1, just so we have a little bit better separation of the different parts. Each of them have 2 different chapters, and this is the final battles. With this, I have Start Clone Wars Old Friends Not Forgotten, and play until landing on Mandalore. And with that, I think the best scene to cut at is right after Ahsoka lands on the platform and talks to Rex, right before it flashes ahead to a battle inside the city where they believe to say they have taken the docks now, since it does imply that some time has passed. And with this, the reason that I put a little bit of a gap here between it is because I think this is the best point, and although this scene and the scene that opens Revenge of the Sith will happen about the same time, I think that it's just a little better to have it here since they are in the Outer Rim already and will be closer to Mandalore, I think. Although I haven't checked the galaxy map and think this would probably be happening first, but if you really want to, you can make an extremely complicated cut, which I don't want to go into because I didn't do it and feel like it'd be way too tedious, where you cut between the opening of Revenge of the Sith and the landing on Mandalore. I then have to start Revenge of the Sith, and with this, I may make a video doing a new opening crawl for all of it if you want to, but I think it's a lot more fun to go and watch the different intros to these different shows besides the Obi-Wan Kenobi one, since that's just a recap of the prequels. And what I recommend, besides obviously for Kenobi's recap of the prequel era, since it will include elements of Revenge of the Sith, I would say that you can go and just watch each intro because it's fun and it brings you into the point you are in this movie. But if you want to skip over it and just have one unified opening crawl, I'll try and make that. And I think you should just play the entire Battle of Coruscant through and bring it up to the moment where Anakin and Padme reunite and she tells Anakin she's pregnant, because I feel like that all will fit together really well. And after that, you can go and play Old Friends I've Forgotten and finish the episode. And immediately after, start the Phantom Apprentice, which is the next episode, and you play that until basically the Maul and Ahsoka duel ends, the first one, and the reason for that is since it's an immediate follow-up, so you can see where that goes, and Maul escapes. So now we could cut back to Revenge of the Sith, and since there is basically a set point there, we know that we can't be playing the next scene. The next scene is the one with Obi-Wan Kenobi talking with them, so with this you just watch Revenge of the Sith from the scene after Anakin and Padme have reunited up to the moment where Obi-Wan leaves for fighting General Grievous. And depending on how you want to cut it, you could have it at any of the points there. I just do it and act like he's either in the Starfighter or has contacted her from Utapau. Although I just do it right after he leaves the Venator, but you could do it before if you really wanted to. And then you could do it either way, but you could find a way to cut between different scenes in Revenge of the Sith and Phantom Apprentice, but I just think finish up the episode Phantom Apprentice since you do want to just get to the Obi-Wan scenes. And it's not going to be hurting too much to go and go through these quickly. And I think it's just more annoying to do that, which you'll see towards the end, but I think those scenes are a lot more impactful with the cuts I have, so you can understand. And in the movie, not too much time passes. I think it's better to have the fights with General Grievous and everything just fully play out, and the fights with Maul fully play out also, since we have another fixed point that they're in between. So I think that's a good way to do it. And then after you finish that, we move to chapter 1.2, which I called Revelations. And with this, it's pretty simple. We know that we have to play up to the just before the war room scene with Revenge of the Sith, since we have to see Obi-Wan fighting Grievous and everything. And the other advantage of having the gap and just finishing up Phantom Apprentice is you have enough time for Obi-Wan to go and start fighting General Grievous, since some time would have passed, and that there's also giving us a little bit of time for it to become day, which is where the next episode starts. And with this, you can go and do that, and you play it up to just before the war room scene, which is the one where Mace Windu goes to send Anakin to go and contact the Chancellor. And then you start up the episode Shattered. And with that one, you play it with the war room scene, and then I think you do it up to when Maul is placed in his cell and it goes to his eyes and starts to cut away to the next scene. That's where you cut away to this one where it starts with Palpatine and Anakin, and I think that's a really good transition scene. And Palpatine goes and reveals everything to Anakin, and I think that is the best place to have it transition. And then with it, you can go and cut to Aftermath, which is the Bad Batch episode. And again, you can play the intro to it. If you want to skip it, you can, but you don't have to. And also, this is going to be, besides the Obi-Wan episode, the only one that you're not going to be, one of the only ones you're not going to be finishing, since it's only the Order 66 stuff that immediately happens that I want to be in this ultimate cut. And with it, you can go and continue playing and move on to Revenge of the Sith, and You play that up to just before Anakin leaves to help Palpatine, and that is because I want to have that cut in with a scene where Ahsoka is looking out into hyperspace. Again, you could have a more interesting cut where they're looking between the two scenes, but honestly, I just think it's simpler to do it like this. And I don't want to be doing something extremely complicated like that because it's annoying to be switching through so often. We now move on to part two, which I call the Fall of the Republic. And with this mainly finishes up the movie, and the last part is more of an epilogue that has the end of the Clone Wars finale tossed onto it. And yeah, but with it, although this is kind of long, it's basically just a compilation of the Order 66 scenes, and I do have some optional ones, which I will explain in a moment. So, starting in Chapter 2.1, Order 66, which is technically just the shortest section of it since it's just the Order 66 scenes. Unless you add some of them in, then it technically could take a while, but that's because of one little thing. If you decide to do it in a certain way, but looking at it, the first thing we have is you just continue Revenge of the Sith until the end of the Order 66 scene. If you really want to, you could put these in a little bit more of a setup order. You continue Revenge of the Sith and you play up to Cody being contacted, since that seems like it's the first contact of Order 66. And then you start the Ahsoka one, and then you can cut to Bad Batch, and then you can cut to Maul being rescued, and then you could go and play out the rest of the Order 66 montage, and then you could go and play the Kenobi one, since I think the first murder of younglings that Anakin does has to be the first group he goes into inside Revenge of the Sith, so we know that Reva and her group get killed right after that scene cuts. So I think it'll be better to do that, although you could use that as a little bit of context scene just before, but it's a really complicated thing. I think this is just so much easier. There you go, and you do that, and then you watch Aftermath's Order 66 scene, and then you play Shattered's Order 66 scene and go up to the mall hallway fight. And finally, you could go and do the Order 66 scene from Kenobi Part 1, since that goes and ties in pretty well with the next scene, which would be Padme looking at the Jedi Temple, which is burning, and now we come to the optional section. And I did put this in parentheses, but I don't recommend putting these in because all of these scenes are related to Order 66. They happen towards the middle or the end of a show and fit very well into the narrative at that point. And one of them is from a video game, so if you say to play it, you have to play through most of the campaign to get to it. Or I could just pull up a video from YouTube. With this, the stuff will be included in my Clone Wars recap and review, but it's something I do not recommend doing because of how complicated it'll be. You also have to find out end points of, or end or middle points towards the middle of or end of a season. And with this, there is the Obi-Wan Kenobi scene from Part 5, where we see the Rebel flashback and how Anakin went and nearly killed her. Then the one from the Book of Boba Fett episode where we see Grogu get rescued. And finally, the one in Jedi Fallen Order. If you do it this way, I recommend watching the scene and someone play through it because it'll take you a few hours of gameplay just to get to this point in the story. And after this, there's sort of an end of the optional section. There's one more optional one that I actually do recommend to put in. I did add in, but this optional section is just basically something you could add in if you really wanted to, but I don't think it works too well. And going to chapter 2.2, which I decided to call Duel of the Fates, we have just playing Revenge of the Sith up to Anakin leaving for Mustafar, and then playing Shadron until Rex is captured by Ahsoka. And I think this is important just because we need some events to be happening around the same time, and I think this is probably the best way to cut it, although you could do it just after Padme leaves for Mustafar also. I think either way would work. But there's a really important thing I wanted to do, and why I have a little bit of gap for the next part, because I both want just the Palpatine and Yoda fight and Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight to be uninterrupted, because it's really important. So you just have that play out. And then you have the scene just after where we get to see Ahsoka saving Rex and taking the inhibitor chip out of his head. The next section is called Birth, Death, Rebirth, and Revival. And that was based off of just what happened right before it. And I thought I had those scenes positioned here, but I still think it works well, which is part of Revise of the Empire. And with this, we could look through it, and I say to continue Revenge of the Sith until before the funeral of Padme. I think that works well because I'm going to want to have this combined with the scene from Victory and Death where we go and have the scene where Ahsoka buries the clones. I think that's a nice transition into Padme's funeral. And then after that, I have an optional section, which I do recommend. You could toss in the scene in Aftermath, which is the Bad Batch episode, and just play the stuff on Kamino where they see Palpatine's speech. And with that, I think it does take place after Palpatine's speech because it still takes them a few days to get back to Kamino, and it would take place just a little bit after. And finally, moving to the final chapter of it, which I call the epilogue. I said to finish Revenge of the Sith, and a little note, you may want to move the Death Star scene to maybe being a post-credit scene, because with it, we know that it will take place after Luke was taken, since it has to take place at least after Darth Vader number 12, which is in the comic where he's introduced to the Imperial military. And with that, I'm going to keep it in there. I don't really feel like putting another screenshot in. I forgot to end the parentheses, but we have to know that he is to be known to the Imperial military, and that's when he is introduced into it. And I couldn't see if he had his lightsaber, but still, it wouldn't matter because he gets his lightsaber before he's introduced to the Imperial military, so I think that is an important thing to know, but it's completely optional. And then, finally, when you're done with Revenge of the Sith, you can go and finish Victory and Death, and if you want, you could treat it as a post-credit scene. You don't have to, you could act like it's still part of the movie, but I think you try to treat it as a post-credit scene, just because I think the ending of the movie is really good, and you can do it to treat it like a post-credit scene. And then finally, you don't have to do this, but if you're doing either full Star Wars rewatch or you just want to finish it up, you can go and finish the episode Aftermath. But do not consider part of the Ultimate Cut. I would definitely recommend it, but I don't consider it part of the cut But yeah, this is about 15 minutes longer than I thought this would be. But still, I had a lot of fun making it. I want to know what you think. I think I will make this document available to anyone who has the link. So that'll be put in the description. And if you have any suggestions for changes, go make it in there. I'll add that parenthesis in, but I'm not gonna be changing on here because I already had to change it because I forgot to add something in, and I just don't want to keep making screenshots and stuff. So it'll be fixed on the document. And also, I'm pretty sure all the spelling's right, but I may have made a mistake. I don't want to fix that either, but yeah, I just want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.